Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about narcissistic abuse syndrome. Stay tuned. This video is a request from one of my subscribers, so thank you so much for requesting this video. If there is a topic in the mental health field that you would like to see me talk about, please leave a comment below, as I really do enjoy subscriber requests and making videos that you guys want to see. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jenna and I'm a psychotherapist. I also make mental health videos here on YouTube, and I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel by hitting the button below. And also, if you like this video, show us some love by giving it a big thumbs up. So narcissistic abuse syndrome. This is actually not something that is formally recognized by the DSM as a disorder or anything like that. However, people that are in narcissistic relationships, or they've left a relationship where narcissistic abuse has been present, do present with very similar symptoms a lot of the time. And these symptoms, they can differ from traditional PTSD symptoms and complex trauma symptoms. However, there is a lot of overlap. So what are these traits that are pretty common across all narcissistic abuse victims? The first one, which is probably one of the biggest hallmarks, is confusion. People that are in relationships with narcissists experience a ton of confusion. And this is a result of all of that psychological manipulation and gaslighting and blaming behaviors that narcissists tend to put upon their victims. And this confusion can continue even after a person leaves a narcissistic relationship. In fact, this is usually the starting point from healing from narcissistic abuse, is to undo all of those spider webs of confusion. And it can be a process, let me tell you what. This was one of the hardest parts for me after I left my narcissist, was working through all of the confusion, because it didn't just stop once I left. It continued on and it affected all of the areas of my life. Learning to trust yourself again is such a process, and definitely one where I would recommend the help of a therapist that really does understand narcissistic abuse. They depend on you staying confused as a way to control you. Because if you can't trust yourself, then all that's left is trusting the narcissist. The second symptom is a lot of feelings of guilt and shame. So guilt is the emotion that says, I did something wrong, right? So this is usually a result of all of the blaming behaviors. So narcissists, they constantly blame people for other things. They love to blame their victims for basically anything and everything that ever goes wrong. The result of this is that it leaves you feeling bad. It leaves you feeling like you did something wrong. Shame is a little bit different from guilt. Shame is the feeling that I am wrong or I am bad. Narcissists are very good at making their victims feel absolutely worthless. One of the hallmarks of narcissistic abuse, which I'm going to get into in a minute, is very, very low self-worth. And when you're constantly blamed for everything, you do grow to learn that there is something wrong with you. I think that this especially comes out when you actually do leave a relationship with a narcissist, because they're going to make you feel absolutely terrible. How could anyone want to leave someone this great? Number 3, anxiety and depression. It can be both, it can be one, you can have one and then have the other one later. I think in my case, it was definitely more anxiety than it was depression, especially early on. I was just very anxious about everything. I never felt like I knew what was going to happen. There were just so many unknowns and so much uncertainty. People would actually comment to me all the time that, oh my gosh, your hand is shaking, because my hand would just shake. It would just shake. There was nothing that was going wrong. I was just always shaky because I was always anxious. And depression is another really big symptom too, just feeling hopeless about the future, kind of like, what now? What's the point? Just feeling exhausted and tired, really low motivation. You just went through something huge, something super duper hard, and it is hard to not let that experience or those experiences really take a lot out of you. And depression is a super, super common thing to feel after leaving a narcissistic relationship or even being in one. The fourth thing is emotional outbursts. And I would remember these would just come out of nowhere, and I would get really upset because I would have so many good days, so many days where I was starting to feel okay, I was feeling better, I was happy. And all of a sudden I'd have a day that come and I just couldn't stop crying. I would go to my shower, which it was always my favorite place to cry. I would just let it out, and then I would feel so bad about getting upset after having all of these good days. There was nothing that set this off either. Anger was another one too, just feeling really angry with myself and also the person that did all of this stuff to me, because when you leave, you have a clear picture of what's going on. You have a clear picture that it's not going to change, and that can lead to a lot of anger against the other person, and also angry with myself that I didn't see it earlier. The most helpful thing for me was journaling. I still journal actually, but journaling really did help me sort through exactly what I was feeling. And then I did raw journaling. I journaled exactly about what was bothering me and what was on my mind. I knew that no one else is going to read this unless I chose to share it with them, so I really let that be my outlet. The fifth symptom is emptiness. A lot of times when people leave narcissistic relationships, they feel extremely empty. And this is because when you're with a narcissist, your entire life is really enmeshed with theirs. Oftentimes you don't have an identity outside of that person or that relationship. So when you leave or when it's over, you just feel empty because you don't have any source of identity. I remember struggling with even how am I going to fill my time? And I was a busy person, and I still struggle with that. It's like I couldn't allow myself to have any downtime, because then I would just have to sit there and think about how empty I felt. So I would use, not always the healthiest things either, but just anything I could do to fill that time so I could feel something. Number 6, low feelings of self-worth and self-esteem. Next to confusion, this is probably one of the most prominent symptoms of narcissistic abuse syndrome. When you leave a relationship with a narcissist, you don't have any self-worth. They take that away from you. That's one of their goals. And when you leave a relationship with a narcissist or any type of abusive person, really, your internal voice is no longer your own. Your internal voice is your abuser's voice. So this voice is constantly reminding you of how worthless you are, that you don't have any value, all of the things that have ever been pointed out to you that are wrong with you. A lot of the self-esteem and self-worth work that needs to be done really needs to be done in the context of a therapist, and also realize that there are no quick fixes. This part is going to take time to come back. One thing I can say that was really helpful for me was there was a point in my life where I did have self-worth and self-esteem, and I think that's true for a lot of people, is that usually when you enter a relationship with a narcissist, for one, you don't know that you are, and for two, you do have self-worth and self-esteem, usually at least a little bit. Just knowing that there was a time in my life where I did have more self-worth, and knowing that I could get that girl back was helpful in starting to explore what was present in my life then. What can I bring into my life to make present right now that can help me find that person that I used to be? What were the things I used to enjoy doing? If you have relationships that lasted the test of time with being with a narcissist, who were those people that you were able to reach out to? Who were the people that you did have healthy relationships with? Surrounding yourself with those types of people that can build you up, can really, really help with low self-esteem and self-worth. Number 7 is isolation. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they often are very uncomfortable or don't allow you to have other relationships that are outside of what they can control. The narcissist likes to keep their victims extremely isolated so they don't have a social support system. Social support is scary to a narcissist, okay? It allows other people to be able to influence you. People that might say things like, hey, what I think is happening here doesn't seem right to me. You can also provide resources that can help you leave the narcissist, and that's extremely scary to the narcissist, because if you leave, they're losing their biggest source of supply. Can't have that. So this can leave victims being really isolated once they leave, because over the course of time, they might have cut off a lot of their friends, they might have cut off their family, and their entire social support system is gone, because a narcissist only would allow you to really kind of interact with people that they deemed as okay, so usually their friends and family. I think one of the hardest things for me after I left my relationship was also losing a lot of friendships, because basically lost anyone that I considered a friend that was someone that I met through him. So they were his friends and his family. So I also had to mourn all of those relationships. And sometimes I think that that part actually might have been harder because those weren't the people that actually directly hurt me. So I had somewhat good relationships with these people. So it was harder to let those go than it was to let go of the relationship where I knew the person was hurting me. So I lost a lot of friends and in turn felt extremely isolated for a very long time. My biggest piece of advice for this one is if you were able to maintain any types of friendships, or if you're building on new friendships, able to rekindle or repair old friendships, to do that, because you really do need a good support system in order to help you heal from narcissistic abuse. It's very essential. One tip that I can give to you is that if you are having a really hard time building a support system, like you just don't have anyone, is to go to support groups. Is there a women's shelter or a domestic violence shelter in your area that has support groups? I know that there are even groups that meet online, and there's Facebook groups. I'm a member of a few of those. But being able to connect with people, and not only just connect with people, but also connect with people that really understand what you're going through or are going through the same thing, can be an excellent way to get support. Number 8, poor decision making and planning. Poor decision making and planning really is a result of that confusion. It can be very hard to make decisions when you're confused about what to make decisions about. A tip I can give for this one is to start out by making small decisions for yourself and then build upon that. This can really help. For one, it can really help with the confusion. And 2, it can really help you explore the new freedoms that you do have, because really when you do leave a relationship with a narcissist, it does open the world up to a bunch of new freedom. It can even look like making decisions about what you want to wear or what type of music you want to listen to in the car, because even things like that could have been controlled by the other person. In fact, that's really not uncommon. I have worked and spoken with a lot of people where they couldn't even make decisions about the clothes that they wore or the music they listened to or what they could make for dinner. Starting to challenge yourself to make those decisions and trusting yourself, it's not easy. Over time, it will allow you to see how much new freedom you do actually have, and that will assist in that healing process. Number 9 is poor concentration and memory. One thing that I remember the months after leaving my situation was that I would be in a conversation with another person, so let's say I was like talking to a coworker at work, and I couldn't recall anything that they said. I think sometimes people would actually get upset with me over this, or they might pick on me for a little bit, like, oh my gosh, did you just not hear what I said? And I completely get how it probably came off. But in reality, my concentration was so poor. When I left my situation, when I moved into my own place, I started grad school 5 days after I moved into my apartment. So I basically don't really remember any of my first semester of grad school. I somehow passed, so that's a good thing. But looking back at the classes I took and the assignments that I did, it's all quite fuzzy. So not only was it my concentration that was affected, my memory looking back was really affected as well. And a lot of that was really due to just constant ruminating in my head. Just ruminating about everything that I had gone through, everything that I still have to do, this journey that I now have to go on. I'm a single mom, so I have this new responsibility of raising this human being, a lot of the times by myself. How is this going to affect him? How am I going to explain things to him? And that rumination really caused major impairments in my ability to concentrate, to be present, and definitely affected my ability to remember things. Number 10 is hypervigilance. And this is kind of that constant on guard feeling. Hypervigilance is a really, really big symptom of trauma. It's a trauma response. You just feel really on guard. You're kind of always looking over your shoulder. If you hear a loud noise or a boom, you might jump. Really common in people that have experienced physical abuse, really common in people that have experienced their abuser doing things like punching walls or throwing things, breaking things, being really loud and yelling. It's that feeling that you always have to watch your back and be completely on guard. Well, those are the 10 symptoms that I discussed with you today. I don't believe that's an exhaustive list. Narcissistic abuse is so complicated, and the aftermath and the healing process, it's very, very overwhelming, and I don't say that to discourage anyone in that video. It is the truth. I do want to make more videos about how to start healing from narcissistic abuse. If you do want to see more content like that, make sure that you put it in the comments below. If you do want to see me make videos like that, I do have them on my calendar, but I might be willing to bump them up too, because I know a lot of the videos that I've done lately are more educationally based. So let me know if that's something you want to see. Also, I would really encourage discussion of this topic too. So in the comments, if there's things that you experienced when you were leaving a narcissist or in a narcissistic relationship that are kind of related to a narcissistic abuse syndrome, leave a comment below. You know, other people will be able to read that and kind of be able to relate and, you know, get a good conversation started. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in the next video.